So, newfound friend, somebody who's on the YouTube channel. This person is starting out, great person. We were talking the other day on Skype, and it was a really interesting conversation. And it got to a point where this person was telling me that he was feeling that he was being pressured to pick sides, as it were, insofar as the whole alt-right, new Republican, new right, whatever, all these, the grab bag on the right, as it were. Because at this time, the right has yet to figure out how it's going to go. Because there's a group of relatively young people, intellectuals on YouTube, who are clearly going to coalesce into a major force in conservative politics. I mean, it's pretty much obvious to all. There are a lot of people on the right on YouTube, and a lot of these people are very, very talented and very, very smart. So there's a little bit of a pressure internally in YouTube to sort of like define yourself politically. Okay? And this person, this friend of mine, was talking to me about it on YouTube and telling me that, I mean, on Skype rather, and telling me that he was getting a lot of pressure to sort of like pick sides. And I cautioned, don't. See? Because you never want to be deciding because somebody's pressuring you to decide. Never. Never, never, never. And this is a key lesson that you ought to learn. And that's why I'm talking to you about it. You see, a lot of people will try to pressure you into picking a side, as it were, because it is to their advantage. They want to pin you down and put an armband on you. Are you, a white armband or a black armband? Are you with us or with them? What are you? Now, a lot of times this is reasonable because what's going on is that, see, a course of action is being decided, or an approach, or what have you, usually a course of action. And it's necessary to figure out who's in favor of one side and who's in favor of the other. Who's in favor of choosing road A and who's in favor of choosing road B. Now, picking sides is fraught with problems. Because when you pick one side, automatically the other side is pissed off at you, right? Not necessarily like pissed off that they'll never speak to you ever again, although that can happen sometimes. But for the most part, there's always going to be a little bit of resentment. I mean, no matter how minor, it's always going to be there. If somebody who was undefined and who was sort of like flirting with both sides all of a sudden defines themselves on the one side or on the other side. Now, we've all heard the platitudes that you should be an honorable person and be a person of principle. That's the word, not an honorable person. Be a person of principle and define yourself, young man, and tell us who you really are and what do you believe in. Oh, it's just a bunch of bullshit, okay? The people who say that you should define yourself and stand up for your principles are usually the people who want you to pick their side, okay? I mean, quite frankly. You should never pick a side for the sake of the side. You should pick a side for your sake. Because for the most part, see, these so-called, issues of principle, it's often is not much more sophisticated and complex than that. Because many times there are principles at play, yes, but there's also long-term interests. Long-term and medium and short-term interests. And these different interests that you have compete. And so you will discover as you get older, especially in corporations, in work environments where there are a lot of people and a lot of consensus has to be arrived at in order for a decision to be taken, that often it is best for you to withhold your decision, to not decide, or at least not publicly decide. You see, what you should be doing is always internally trying to make up your mind as quickly as possible, whereas externally, what you project to the world around you, you're still thinking. You're always thinking, and you're always going to very reluctantly decide. Why do you want to reluctantly decide on a course of action? Because if you are reluctantly deciding on one side or the other, one team or the other team, course A or course B, the people who will be on the opposite side of the question, if you express to them clearly that you are you're very unsure and reluctantly you're going to choose one or the other, right? And the one that's not their side, of course. See, they will take it softer. If it's a snap decision, they'll be upset with you. If it is a decision that you take under duress because the leader of one side or another pushes you to make the decision, they're going to respect you less. Your position in the overall group will decay. Yeah. Because look at it, think of it. You've seen those guys who are like, oh, I don't know which to go, where to go, where to go. And then the alpha guy comes up and says, John, come on, be a man, go with me and do what I say. And John is like, okay, what do you think of this guy? Of this John fellow who capitulated to the alpha and just followed along like a meek little dog. You think he's a meek little dog. He's a fucking loser. He's not what I want to be, right? There may be very good reasons for following this alpha guy, but the alpha guy pushed him to decide to go with him. And that adds strength to the alpha at the expense of poor John, who looks like a fucking, loser, like a cuck, right? See, that's the problem. And you always want to be careful that you don't come across as a loser who is capitulating because some strong personality is pushing you in one direction or another. In point of fact, it's smart if somebody, even the person that you want to follow, if he comes up to you in public, say, or in a public setting via email, for instance, or whatever, if he comes to you and pushes you and says, well, come on, John, join me, be a man, and some shit like that, you have to push back. You have to push back and say, no, hey, I'm going to make up my mind when I'm good and fucking ready, and you're not going to be pushing me. And if it's going to be like that, then fuck you. Now, you do that move and you'll watch as the alpha just backs the fuck off, because he's not going to want to lose supporters on the one hand, and he's going to, realize that you're not to be trifled with. You never want to come across as somebody who could be trifled with, no matter what. It is better to be considered an idiot and an asshole than somebody who can be pushed around, okay? Because being considered an idiot, people will get over that when you open your mouth and say sensible things. Being considered an asshole, people will get over that if you show kindness and decency and respect to other people. But being somebody who can be pushed around, you never get over that. You never get over the perception of being considered weak. Have you ever seen somebody who people thought was weak, that their idea about him turned around? Never. Weakness is forever, because people smell it. It's it's there. And it never goes away. Everything else, you can change it. Any false impression of who you are can be changed except weakness. So even if a guy is pushing you hard to choose his side, and even if it's the side that you want to choose, if he pushes you and tries to manhandle you, psychically speaking, of course, you say no. You tell him to fuck off right there on the spot. Don't hesitate. Because see, you'll always be able to choose his side, and when you do, after you told him to fuck off, it'll count for more. Your voice, the fact that you had a tiff with a guy, and then a day or a week or whatever later you say something, his side is the better side, it will actually gain you more respect, because people will feel that you took the decision on principle. Because after all, you're joining the person that you had a little tiff with, and little tiffs mean shit. Okay, don't worry. Getting pushed around and getting into little tiffs with people, that's part of life. Don't be afraid of it. The people who are afraid of stepping on other people's toes, the people who are afraid of mixing it up and getting into a little tiff, they never amount to much, they never get anywhere, and nobody respects them. Don't worry about it, If you have to just stick your elbows out and push people aside to get what you want, fine, don't worry about it. Have self-confidence. Have self-confidence in what you want, but like I say, never choose under duress. Only choose, or let me rephrase it, always make up your mind as quickly as possible, but make your decision known as late as possible when it is to your advantage. There's no upside in deciding first. Some cases, yes, you could think so. Like, for instance, the people who were first to support Trump, they gained a lot of credibility with the Trump administration. You would think, well, look what happened to poor Jeff Sessions, right? He's getting hammered by fucking Trump, and Sessions supported him when nobody was supporting him, And so, loyalty only counts so far as, the person who's there to make good on the promise that loyalty is, right? If the guy is like Trump, who's gonna, basically tell you to fuck off, even though you were one of his first supporters. Well, see, so you see my point. I'm not expressing it in a very articulate manner, but I think you do. You see, you only want to pick sides when it's in your best interest, when you can make the most out of it. Ted Kennedy, for instance, he passed away shortly after he endorsed Obama. But had he lived, Obama would have given him anything. Why? Because Ted Kennedy endorsed Obama at a key moment in the Democratic primaries back in 2008. When he endorsed him, it gave the Obama candidacy huge credibility. And all of a sudden, Hillary Clinton, who seemed like the shoo-in for the nomination, she looked not just vulnerable, but weak. If Ted Kennedy is not supporting her and instead supporting this guy, then she's not the candidate we want, or this young senator from Illinois, he's the one we want. See? So that's a smart move. That was when, Ted Kennedy decided early to his advantage. You see? You make your decision known when it's to your advantage. Now, if you're not sure of which course to take, like this friend I was telling you about, this friend and I were discussing the alt-right and the alt-light in great detail. And I myself confess that I am unsure which band to join, as it were, because it seems that we are getting to a point where people are going to have to pick sides. Now, I can't make up my mind which side to join, because they both have their pros and their cons, as it were. I was talking to this person, and this friend of mine, let's call him X. This friend of mine, X, was like, there's all this pressure to join, to be on one side or the other. And so we started dissecting it, and we realized it was just a couple of people who were making a lot of noise via Twitter, via private conversations, and because they were just, in a very real sense, sort of stirring drama, and at the same time trying to make the panorama clear, as it were. See? And I told X, don't decide. You don't need to. There's no reason to. Don't make a decision if there's no reason to. Don't make a decision when the outcome is uncertain for you. A decision, whom to support, which action to take, it should always be in your best interest, not somebody else's best interest. If it helps somebody else, great, but you got to look out for number one, because nobody else is. Don't make a decision unless it can help you. And if you're not sure, just wait it out. Just sit back and just say, I'll decide later at some point. And what are people going to say? No, you have to decide now. Why? You see? That's the issue. If somebody says that you have to decide now, you say, no, I don't have to decide. I decide when I'm good and ready. And you will just have to wait.